Okay, people, today let's take a quick look at the boss fight studio Court of the Dead Death and Kier. Hey, guess what? I know nothing about Court of the Dead. Quite a few years back at San Diego Comic-Con, when Sideshow would do their big museum in the middle of the floor, I remember some larger scale Court of the Dead things being displayed and thinking, whoa, those are crazy looking. And then just a few years ago at PowerCon, I believe Boss Fight showed the initial prototypes for their Court of the Dead line, which is 1/12 scale, which is right up my alley. And I thought, I'm gonna have to take a look at those at some point. So, starting with the packages, there's a simplicity to it, but there's also kind of that grim, deathy feel to it. Or maybe it's because it says Court of the Dead, Death, Master of the Underworld. If it had said super fun time, happiness, Master of Joy World, I would have probably got a different vibe from the color scheme and stuff. Have the Court of the Dead logo up at the top. Like I said, Death is Master of the Underworld, and then Kier is Valkyrie of the Dead. And yes, Valkyrie is one of those words that triggers my brain, makes me think I'm saying it wrong. So if I paused, it's because I was gonna say Valkyrie. Valkyrie? Screwed myself up already. Boss Fight Studio. On the side, some very nice artwork of both characters. On the back, pretty promos showing poses, showing accessories for both characters, just what they come with, what they do, and then a bio for each. And I'm just gonna hover there for a minute so you can pause and read it yourself, because I'm not going to bore you by doing it out loud, just like, hey, Kier, Valkyrie of the Dead, Court of the Dead. And this is where we start seeing a difference in the background. Kier has this kind of aquamarine, greenish blue ring thing, and Death goes more purplish. Barely. You can't hardly see it somewhere. There's also a skull in Death's ring up top, and then Kier is cleaner. Again, greenish blue. And I swear that's purple. Is that coming across on camera? On the bottom, it lists what is included with each figure. There's credits, there's legalese, there's icons, there's barcodes. Let's start with, where are we going here? Let's start with Death. Right out of the package, you can see that this is absolutely gorgeous, but spoiler alert, there are two things that bug me. One is a minor complaint, the other is a huge annoyance, but the huge annoyance, I think, is easily fixable, while the minor complaint, not so much. We'll get to that, all in good time. Because first off, we're going to do some close-ups and look at the detail. The sculpt is beautiful. I mean, we're still looking at the headdress thingy, mask, whatever it is, and I can't stop finding new things to look at. How many skulls do you think are hidden throughout this figure? Because we get down to the chest piece and there's more kind of hidden inside that fleshy color, which is another thing I'm gonna say, which is pretty obvious. The paint is also stunning. It's a fleshy muscle paint underneath the metal bronzy color. It just makes for a crazy looking set of armor. And y'all, look, there's another skull. That is, of course, on top of a black base, but there's also other colors thrown in. There is the red highlighting or outlining this silver color on the shoulders that's a bit more puffy than the skin tight ribbed shirt underneath. Then the pants go a little bit medieval, a little bit more bed mattressy, with these diamond shapes with little silver dots highlighting the cross points, which just makes that pop. And yes, that is painted underneath this rubbery hang down and on the back. Get down to the boots, there's another skull, and that's where we bring some gold into the color scheme, because why not? These swirls and the twirls and the circles and the angles, the triangles, down to some spiky boots that the toe is coming up to a claw-like shape, and then the back has a little claw too. Then under the belt and these side armor pieces is, well, it's plastic. I was gonna say it's cloth, but it's sculpted to look like cloth. And there we have the black, we have the trimmed red, and then a gray color that stands out. Well, okay, it does tie back to these amulets, these medallions here on the hood. And guess what? Those are skulls too. And actually, now that I zoom in this far, that is not gray. That is a greenish blue that, no, it's not. From a distance, I thought, oh, well, that matches that, but it doesn't. It's the same kind of shade, especially when you get back, But no, that's yet another paint hit. Another color in the long list of paints used on this figure. I haven't even got to the skin tone, that deathly yellowish, just decayed feel. Same thing back here on the hands, and if you pull this off, oh, it exposes so much more. I was gonna say a bone look, but that's way too many ribs here and here, right? So it's still flesh on top, but it does have these bones at the shoulder blades, I feel like, are sticking through. While I have the cape and hood off, again, those silver dots are back here too. You're not gonna see those 90% of the time with it covered up, but they did it anyway. Same with the back armor piece. Here's the fleshy color. Everything is painted, except for right here, and this is my minor annoyance. Don't get me wrong, it looks fantastic all the way around. Well, not quite all the way around. You start here, ooh, it's beautiful. It's spectacular. It's just so good looking. Oh, what? And that only sticks out at me like it does because of all the TLC on the rest of the figure. All of the paint hits, the skull, everything. That is just flat and plastic colored. But at the same time, I'm not going to be displaying it like this a lot from the back. Bringing the hood back in, which, looking at that, you have the red trim on the black sculpted rubbery plastic piece that comes down to a point way down here, and then there is a fabric cape glued to the inside. No wire, it is kind of flat, but you put it behind this figure, it's not really noticeable. But then we get to my big pet peeve, which is putting this on. Not a problem whatsoever. You just put it over the head, put the sides over the shoulders, and there you go. It looks great. But then you start messing with the figure and you grab it and it pulls that off. You put it back on, or you move the head and it kind of drags away and you have to pull it around and it pops away. And if, depending on where you put the head, you pull the cape a little bit, it comes off. It doesn't attach. There's no pegs, there's no tabs, there's no securing this onto the shoulders. It just hangs on top of the head, and then these drape down in front. When you get it into position, it looks fantastic. It's behind this headdress thing, it's draping over the shoulders, these look good hanging down. But like I mentioned, it's a simple fix, and I don't know if it was meant to be glued down, but what I may eventually do is just slap some glue right here, put that on like that, and once that is held in place right here, you can turn the head and these come over the shoulders. It doesn't really hinder side to side. You can still look up and down and around. That affects nothing other than being able to see the back, which is kind of a shame because it's such a beautiful sculpt and paint job. I mean, with this on, you can still look up in there. Again, not knowing the property, I don't know if there's lore, if there's a story. Does he sometimes not have the hood on? Is it like this, where you can see all this? You know, lounging around the court top situation? What makes me think this is supposed to be glued down is the shoulders. See how they're just kind of open and bare? They don't have sculpted covers of any kind. The covers are the cape. You put this here, and the cloth and the plastic kind of hides that. Maybe it's just my early copy. I don't know, take that as you will. At first I was like, God, that thing needs to go on, but then I realized I can just glue it. So not a huge deal, but unless you don't like gluing things, then it may be a huge deal. But I am going to take this off for articulation to show all the points and some neat stuff going on. At the top of the neck, there seems to be a dumbbell with a ball at the bottom of the neck. Can look up. This is more for looking down. And then, ooh, plenty of tilt. Is it Valkyrie or Valkyrie? The butterfly joint was not immediately visible because it kind of cuts up and behind this armor piece. And then on the back, you think, oh, it's just a shoulder blade sculpted up. No, that is part of the butterfly going forward and back. I don't know why I love that so much, but I do. Pin coming out to the shoulder rotates around with a hinge that goes up to there. Swivel at the bicep, nicely hidden by this puffiness coming up and over the shoulder. Hinge and swivel at the elbow comes up to about 90, and I kind of feel like they did that to not break up this upper sleeve. Maybe? Swivel at the wrist with a hinge up and down for a weapon-wielding hand. Joint mid-torso, and I'm realizing I forgot to go over all the overlays because this is also a cover that goes down. There's sculpt down to the joint. Well, you can see it better right here. And there is a dumbbell joint that kicks forward and back and some tilt, but the heavy movement is on the ball at the waist. So with that, you can crunch, you can arc back, tilt, rotation. The belt and the drapes are also an overlay that get kind of thick up here, so it's not the most flexible material, but it does get up and out of the way of the ball joints at the hip. So you can kick here and back and out. Better than a lot of Spider-Mans. There's a lot of rotation on the ball itself, but it's also a separate assembly. There's a swivel with this part sculpted up and over. So you can bring it in, you can bring it out. It doesn't go all the way around, but that's a hell of a lot of movement. Double knee comes up to about right there. The armor does get in the way a little bit. Swivel at the top of the ankle, then a hinge that goes back to there, goes forward, and front-facing pin for rocker. For accessories out of the package, there are 2 grip hands that also work kind of as relaxed hands because they're not too grippy. Then there's 2 hands with 2 finger, kind of finger guns, double barrel on each side. I think of these as either condemning someone to death or some kind of magic spell, or can also work as a grip. There's also a set of more evil pointing hands, kind of, you must go through this door or you will be forever doomed. That voice does not fit this character whatsoever, does it? Oh, come with me and I will make you my queen. Actually, that does kind of work, doesn't it? Oh, I'm tired of work. I just want to sit on a beach somewhere. The hands are no problem to pop out, as in, they're tight enough to stay in there, but not too tight that you're afraid something's gonna break, swapping them out. Will you take me on vacation? Okay, I'm annoying myself with that shit. All good versions of death must come with a scythe, and there is a little bit of assembly required. The peg has some keys in it, and you just have to find the proper spot to plug it together. It's nice and tight, and it has a little bit of give, so I'm not worried about breaking it. Some black wraps around this wood sculpt, along with some brown paint, a wash to bring out the details, and then look at that. Well, okay, that's definitely bone on top, but then it feels like metal on the inside because it's shiny, and that's what metal does. Overall, ooh, only you can prevent forest fires. And then, just for the sake of completion, there is a stand. There is 2 pegs for the feet, and then Death's logo in the middle. That is tampoed on top, but then the stand itself is this smoky clear material, and then the bottom is painted black. So there's a little depth to it. Yeah, the logo is sticking up, but then it's almost a floaty effect. Or maybe I'm thinking too much about it. It's just a neat stand. Now it's time to open up Kier. Kier? Have I been saying that wrong the whole time? Valkyrie lays in on the road that I must travel. And here there's not as much going on. There's not as much intricate detail to every part and piece. Don't get me wrong. There is some badass sculpting going on here and in places. But it doesn't feel as finicky in my hand. Only because there's no hood, there's no top piece. I will get it out of the way. The cape does just hang on the shoulders and just falls down the back. Not a lot of life to it, but the sculpted detail does make it feel more dynamic. You have some tears and tatters down at the bottom. There is a fabric texture to the whole thing. It kind of kicks to the side and then back down, and then up at the top there's this supposed to look like a collar type thing in metal because of the color and the sculpt, and that just looks nice. But it isn't glued down, and you'll notice the hair coming back here in ponytail, in braids. So when this gets funky, it also pushes on the head. So that's my gripe about this figure right off the bat. Now we're gonna get into all the beautifulness. I do not know what's going on here. There's so like banding going across and coming over, and maybe bones, and oh, gotta have a skull, of course, and just a lot of detail. But I do like how that and the collar and then the belt with its metal front right here with some silver to contrast the copper look. I do like how those stand out from what is essentially just a basic body. But it's a basic body in this very pale whitish blue skin tone, which is very, very striking once you start looking at all the details. The lower legs and arms are drenched in blood. Like she's been wading through a battlefield or bodies, a river of internal fluids or something. It just makes it look even more chaotic. While the hands and feet are just deep red, that slowly fades into a lighter red, and then you can see the blood droplets, the spatter. It does kind of fade into the color of the cape. Not quite, well, okay, maybe somewhere here in the transition point, there's a matching color. So it's blends, but it also stands, especially down at the legs. It fades right as the cape's coming up behind it. So as a design, it's interesting. I think these are hanging down silvers that are meant to be metal, maybe? But then attaching from the front to back, there is like brown leather, it's sculpted rubber plastic, not actual brown leather, but there's a brown color that gets back to here. And then there's more silver, more dangles, and then another cloth piece in white. That's a bit torn up too to match the front. And then there's these gray streaks coming down on the sides and then here in the middle, and that's also on the back. There's also brown bands sculpted into the torso to look like it's holding the corset, the front armor. There's an armband sculpted to the left bicep that has kind of the same design work and color as the front armor and the collar. We looked at the braids, there's more skulls peeking out, and here with the crossbones, and maybe here? I can't see it. I'm gonna get to edits and go, oh, okay, those are tiny skulls. Or I'm gonna go, I wish I hadn't said skulls because they're not skulls, but they're just little beads. Either way, that looks fantastic. But then you have this staring at you, and oh, it's so unnerving. I hate whited out eyes, but I love them at the same time. It's like they creep me out, but I can't look away. There's that same skin tone, and the hair is sculpted to come up into buns to come down to those braids, and the darkness around the eyes, and the way the eyebrows kick up, and whatever is happening at the mouth, just damn creepy, but beautiful at the same time. There's an elegance going on. I don't know if it's the lighter skin tones with the white here standing out against the dark coppery color and the blood red and everything. I'm not going to skip the overlays this time around. This belt and drape down piece is separate, so it's meant to get up and out of the way of the legs, but you may just stay down here. And no, there is nothing sculpted underneath on the front or back. I was about to say the armor is sculpted to the torso, but I think this is glued down because down here there's some give. And it does come away from the base body. Makes me think this arm, oh, okay. The armband is not sculpted to the forearm. I think it is either so tight that it doesn't want to move, or it is, no, okay. It is a separate piece, and I pulled it away, and yes, it's meant to stay right there. I may have pulled the glue. I'm not sure. Oh, the head does pop off. So if you don't want the cape, and just want that, which gives a clean look. I don't know. There's something about the cape. Maybe that's because I've only seen it with the cape on, but this kind of ties it all together, doesn't it? But that's not bad. It also gives me a chance to look at all the articulation. Like I just showed, there is a dumbbell joint at the top of the neck with a kick to the stick. That gives it a bit more up without cutting further back into the neck. But can I take that? Oh, yeah. You can rotate it around if you want her to look down more. We see that a lot with Mayfix. But with the head on, there is up, there is down, tilt, tilt, very nice. Am I Kier or Kier? Butterfly joints at the shoulders, and I have noticed with the cape, it pushes the arms forward like this, but without the cape on, you can pull the arms back a little bit, and it feels like she's stretching out a bit, like more relaxed. Here, very pin coming out to the shoulder, rotates all the way around, and then there is a hinge that goes up to there. Swivel at the bicep, double elbows all the way up. Swivel at the wrist with an up and down hinge for a weapon wielding hand. There is a ball joint at the waist, so a little crunch, arc back, tilt, tilt, rotation. And then there is a ball coming out to the hip to kick forward and back and, oh, out is it? Oh, okay, wait a second. The crotch cover is rubbery and I hit it. If I can get under there. What am I running into? Oh, it's the torso, isn't it? Okay, if you get out from under the torso, kicks to the side that far. There is rotation at the top of the hip. Double knee. Oh, yeah. The calf runs into the back of the thigh, but we can... Hinge at the ankle goes back, goes forward, front-facing pin for rocker. For accessories, there is her cape, which we've already looked at. She comes with 2 grip hands right out of the package, and you can replace those with either a set of fists or a set of relaxed hands. Her sword is badass. There's this bird? Oh no, that's an angel. I thought, ah, and then turn around and it's actually really blurry. And then the guard is, surprise, a skull with a headdress of some kind coming out. And are these skulls too on the ends? I also love that the blade's not just silver. It has that color to it, but then there's a wash down this and it fades to a blackness. Not a problem whatsoever to get her to grip it either. Except for I have noticed that the thumb doesn't like to cooperate, but that's just a simple matter of getting it to the outside. No problem. Something that ups that badass factor is this mask. Just your basic skull face mask with the jaws dislocated and come down as cheek guards, and then the horns up on top. Well, one full horn and one kind of broken off. Well, I'd say broken off. Maybe it just grew that way. Then some kind of symbol up top. And the neato thing about this is it just goes on. You line up the eyes and the nose, push it on, and it's there. Nothing around the back. It just fits to the face. Now, you're not gonna be able to do that. It held for a second though. That's kind of impressive. But with these hanging down on the sides, you do have to kind of watch the cape running into it. Or this springing the mask off the face as you're in the pose, because it may be troublesome. Oh, there it is. Of course it didn't do it right off the bat. Something to think about when you're posing. Get your pose, then straighten everything out, just like with death. And then she comes with the same style stand too, just with a different symbol on the front. The ring. You see this? You have 7 days. Passed it to you. Standing them side by side, you can see why there's a price difference here. Death is more plastic, and I feel like more paint apps. Now that's not taking anything away from Kier, but Death stands at about 7 inches to the top of his actual head, and then about 7 3/4 to the top of the headdress, while Kier stands at about 6 3/8 to the top of her head, and 7 maybe 1/4 to the top of this horn. And because I already had these figures near me, here are these two with the Frazetta Icon Collectibles Fire and Ice Dark Wolf and the Harbinger Studios Savage Crucible Warrior with Ball and Chain. Took me a minute to remember all that. Compared to some other boss fight figures I have, here is their Red Sonja and the upcoming Mel Blanc. Here's the Mezco 1/12 Collective Conan and the Mattel Masters of the Universe Masterverse He-Man. The NECA Dungeons & Dragons War Duke and the Four Horsemen Mythic Legion Skeleton with a familiar head on it. And then finally, here's my standard comparison with a Hasbro Marvel Legends Vulcan and the Hasbro Star Wars Black Series Stormtrooper. So at the end of the day, just 2 badass figures. Do I know anything about their backstories or where they come from or what they're supposed to do? No, but I can glean a lot because of the work that Boss Fight put into these. The sculpts, the paints, the articulation scheme, there was just a lot of care put into these. And yeah, it took a while to get these out, but I feel like the wait was worth it because of how much this just exudes the love put into them. They're not without their problems. I pointed that out on both of them, especially Death's hood. I know I harped on that for quite a while when really all I need is a little glue. And I should have probably contacted Boss Fight to ask if it's supposed to be glued down or if they left it off to give us that option. I just know that when I was initially messing with it, it was like, But now that I've been through the review and messed with it more and done some poses and some shots, it's not quite as bad. But I'm definitely still going to glue it down. Here I go harping on it again. I'm only going to talk about that one point. I think that's the sign of a really great figure. Everything else is so damn great that you can't help but focus on those annoyances. Well, I gotta have something to gripe about because everything else is on point. What you see is what you get, and what you see is just like, but then you get them in hand, and it's even more. There you go. That's all I have to say about that. Oh, thanks to Boss Fight, I did get these early, and they seem like finals because of the way they were packed and everything. But again, I probably should have asked. But if these are final, these are perfectly fine. They're great. I don't know how many times I said great and fantastic and spectacular and beautiful and gorgeous, because that's all descriptions of these figures. Now that's all I've got. Bye.